Change the camera view, I think. Hold on a sec, folks. That's better. Look at this beautiful park I'm in. It's just a busy main road cutting through. But hey, look. Look at it. Little children's play area. Some, what's this, fuchsia? Probably what's giving me lots of hay fever. No smell from it. Very beautiful. I think it's some sort of fuchsia. Not sure. This little area that they have concerts, these little stepped areas of seating also. They've even thought about disabled access. Look, they put a lovely ramp in. It's a very new park. It's only been open about a year. And you can see it's still got lots of plants to put in the ground. Still lots of flowers and plants in their containers ready to go in. Anyway, sorry folks. Sawati, Sabaidi, how all are we? We all good? We all gravy, baby. Merry Christmas to you all. And Happy New Year. Yeah, it doesn't really feel like Christmas when you're in Southeast Asia. Even though lots and lots of places, you know, cafes and restaurants and hotels and other businesses do put up Christmas decorations. Even though it's quite chilly today, probably around, I don't know, 16, 17 degrees today. It's quite chilly. Well, for Southeast Asia it's chilly. Hence why I got an extra layer on this morning. So yeah, not really Christmassy, as in there's no likelihood whatsoever of getting any snow or anything like that. So anyway, it's been a while. Actually, I don't think I've been down to the park, down to here, since I came back from Laos. So yeah, nothing's really changed in that time. Beautiful statues. They've got a set here and another set on the other side. See these ones here. There's statues here, and some more. Where is it? I'll show you the other ones, because they are good. They are very, very good. And it's really nice at night time. It's all lit up. All these basket woven lampshades. Yeah, they look really cool. Yeah, let me show you these other traditional statues. They're well cool. I think there's some sort of bronze. So cool, huh? Really cool. I like them a lot. Yeah, they're really cool. I like them. Yeah, I often come down here just to get out of my room and just spotted something that I've never spotted before. And I'm pretty sure I've never visited before. I just noticed. Zoom in for you. Oh, we can't zoom in on this live. I've just seen a temple roof, which I'm pretty sure I've never visited. So there we go. Things happen for a reason. The reason I've ended up seeing this one is to give me a sign. That's how I see. That's how I see life. You gotta look for life signs, you know. People talk about what do they call it? Where you kind of envisage something, you know. Manifest, that's the word I was looking for. Manifestation. Yeah, there's a lot of people of late talking about it. Although people have been talking about it for a long time. It's not a new subject. Yeah, manifestation. Which, you know, you could say that's just another way of you know, looking for the signs. Anyway, what I was about to say is, if you've not watched much of my content in the past, you won't have seen me coming down here and chilling and watching the fishermen. It's amazing how much this water's gone down actually since I last did a video. I mean, literally all of this down, this lower region down here, that was all underwater not so long ago. Rainy season's over now. We're now into, I suppose, what they call it high season. I don't know if people in Thailand, everyone calls it that. I think they do obviously still have like seasonal weather, you know, but whereas in the West, you know, in the Americas and other places, there's a distinct difference between the seasons. You know, it's they're obviously the rainy season, like I've just explained. When in the rainy season, you know, there's a lot of potential for fun. Let's say all this lower area here was underwater not so long ago. Just trying to walk up to the area I used to sit and watch the guys fishing. Was it here or a bit further up? No, I think it's a bit further up. I think it was near this bench up here. And I'll be able to get a really good idea as to how much the water's gone down, because I'll remember the tree that the guy used to sit under. I think it is this one here. See, hell, yeah, this water level has dropped. Even from what you see it now, we'll put it this way. There you go. Not so long ago, this across the way here, you see this black shed kind of thing, like it looks like a bar, and the decking. The water wasn't far off hitting the top of that decking, so that kind of gives you an indication as to how high the water has been this year during the rainy season. And I'll show you again with these trees here, because this little selection of trees here. We still see some of the stuff that the previous guys have left. During the rainy season, about 3 months ago, see these 3 trees? Well, that's basically where the fishermen were 3 months ago. This lower bank here was completely underwater. So basically, where those trees are, that's where the water came up to. These 3 trees, and actually, I think it's been higher at points, because it's the trees have got a little bit of water damage, or tide line, should we say, not maybe water damage. They're probably used to it. But yeah, all this bank here, this lower bank, was completely and utterly underwater. And it's actually shrank by about half. There we go. There's still people down there fishing. So what are you doing this Christmas? Christmas is a funny time for me. Mercy. I don't know if it's cold or hay fever or a combination of both. Yeah, so I'm not feeling tip top right now. Feeling a little bit worse for wear. Not too bad though, but you know, it is winter. Winter wouldn't be in winter without getting a cold or the sniffles with it. So I suppose there is a bit of a reminder of back home in that sense. It's my own fault though. I do like a cold room. So basically all my windows are wide open. So I get the breeze coming through. Maybe I've just overdone it a little bit since the cooler weather's arrived. Yeah, Thailand really know how to do beautiful parks. I think most countries do, to be fair. It's obviously such a good thing for, you know, the community, the population, the people. So how are you? We all good? Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button. Yeah. Thailand, there's so much content out there for Thailand, you know. I think since, what was his name, Hashtag Brady came out and kind of hit the algorithm just at the right time, and he just flew. Although he had quite a large following before his YouTube channel kind of took off. You know, he had quite a big following on Instagram and TikTok and all those other social media stuff. So there's no wonder, it was only a matter of time before he skyrocketed and is now a very successful YouTuber or content provider. Don't know really what title you want to call yourself, and that's why I struggle with this this whole filming myself business. You know, who or why do I do YouTube for? Well, the reason I'm doing YouTube lives is, as opposed to pre-recording the video and uploading it and editing it, is mainly because I have technical issues. Sorry folks, let me just set you up. How is that? Probably not the best. Maybe I should come over this side and have the sun on my face rather than on the camera. Yeah, how are we all? I don't know how well that's looking. Sawadee Krap. Sawadee Krap. Thanks for joining. Just hit this follow button if you wouldn't mind. Thailand, like I was saying, has lots and lots of content. A lot of it is talking about, you know, living here, you know, how to survive here, what to do here, the cost of living. It's all subjective. Everything when it comes to Thailand is subjective. And that's the charm of the place. They have laws, they have rules, you know, the same as every country. It's just that I think the charm for a lot of people is that, to some extent, the laws are somewhat relaxed, which can make it, you know, a more satisfying place to live. You know, I know I'm not endorsing this, but you know, things like drink driving, it's a big no-no in the West. It really is. If the police, you know, you're in serious trouble. You can lose your job. You could lose, you know, if you lose your job, you might lose your family, your marriage, and your home, and all that. Sorry, folks, my nose is starting to run. I'm really not sure if it is a cold or whether or not it's hay fever. I went and got some antihistamines yesterday, and they don't seem to have made much difference. So, well, I'll say antihistamine. It was cold and nasal medicine rather than actual antihistamine, so I'm not sure if I got the right tablets. Anyway, so Thailand, if you're watching this, there's a good chance that you are from Thailand. Or if you're not, you're its very near and dearest neighbour from Laos. There's a lot of my viewership, subscribers rather, viewership, it's the wrong word. A lot of my viewers, or subscribers rather, are from Thailand and Laos, which fills me with a lot of pride. Excuse me for 1 second, folks. Can't talk whilst I'm feeling like my nose is basically about to explode with runny boogers. So yeah, that makes me feel really good that a lot of my viewers, a lot of my followers, sorry, are Thai and Laos people. Obviously, means that my viewers love looking at the places that I show them around. Today, like as I said, I have been here before, so there is other videos, nighttime videos, when it looks totally different, obviously, of this park. But I just wanted to, come on and say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year for the New Year coming. Hopefully everybody will have a successful and good 2026, although Thailand doesn't use, well, they do use the same calendar, but they have their own. They live in the future here in Thailand with the Buddhist calendar. Yeah, so time travel is possible. All you have to do is come to Thailand and then convert to the Buddhist calendar, and you are a time traveler. Obviously they understand the Western calendar too. They use it for business, but yeah, for pretty much everything else they use the Buddhist calendar. So that can throw you off a little bit if you didn't know. And that's just, one of the small differences, or one of the other small differences, the relaxed way of living, Drink driving in Thailand is rife, it's probably Southeast Asia, to be fair. Unless you're in places like Bangkok, the major capital cities, then obviously there's a lot more taxis and other services available to get around. But there still is a high level of drink driving that goes on, and obviously other crimes as well. It's not a lawless country by any stretch of imagination. In fact, because it's a Buddhist religion, that's where I think a lot of foreigners fall in love with the place, because the Buddhist, calling it a religion is maybe not the right term to use. The Buddhist philosophy, there we go, we'll use that word. The Buddhist ways, the Buddhist beliefs of just living their lives, keeps a lot of the other things, social issues at bay. For example, temples serve more than a role than just a place to go worship. They're schools, they're orphanages, they're support networks, they're counselling, maybe even to some extent medical, They serve a massive purpose in Southeast Asia, and they fill a lot of roles as well. Obviously you get good temples and you get bad temples, obviously some are a little more than, well, from of the ones I've seen recently, they're pretty much abandoned. There doesn't seem to be any real signs of life or activity or much going on whatsoever. And whether or not, there's a reason behind that, like the monk or monks have, had to vacate for whatever reason, go home to look after family, I don't know. I don't know anything about a monk's life, and what their roles are within their families, just because a monk becomes, a man becomes a monk, does that then stop them from being the son or brother or uncle to his family? I don't think so. I think the uncles, let me just change this angle for you all folks. Uncles, it's going to jump up because I'm going to... Oh, there we go. Sorry folks, I turned it off with the gimbal. Yeah, so yeah, what happens when they have family issues? Do they derobe and go home? Do they just stay in their robes and still go home? Or do they have to stay in their temples? These are the questions that I have. And lots more when it comes to temples. I have no real interest in you know, churches or anything like that. Although maybe when I return to the UK, maybe I will. I do love stained glass windows. Yeah, the insides of some of these churches and cathedrals with the light and the stained glass, that definitely has a very magical effect inside some churches. It's all down to lighting, I suppose. I just find, in comparison with temples, churches seem pretty boring and mundane and same, you know. I don't know, there's churches obviously in lots of different styles and sizes. Hello, mayเอาครับไม่เอาครับไม่หิว ขอบคุณครับ Trying to sell me some sort of snacks of some sort. No, thank you. I have got a sweet tooth when it comes to drinking tea and coffee, although I haven't had a cup of tea in a long while, but when it comes to drinks, I've got a sweet tooth. When it comes to eating, I can still eat sweet things, but because I don't eat them, you know, I don't eat, I might have like a sweet, you know, like a mint sweet or something like that, menthol sweet. I don't generally eat biscuits anymore, candies and chocolate. Haven't done for 2 years. And there's the old saying, you can't miss what you don't have. So yeah, same with crisps, you know, or crackers as the Americans call them. If you stop eating them and don't have them for a long time, you don't crave them, you don't feel the need to eat them. So yeah, how's life in the West? It seems like it's fallen apart from what I can see. Not that there'll be anybody watching this from the West at this hour. It's early morning here in Thailand, so it'll be the middle of the night still for Westerners. So my Asian viewers, Sawatdee, Sabaidi, how about all of thee? We all good? Huh? Yeah. Boxing Day. And the sun is shining now. The sun is now starting to come out, it's now starting to warm up. So it'll be another baking hot day, now the sun starts to penetrate the clouds. And it's just one reason, I think, probably the major reason, I think, for a lot of Westerners, you know, Europeans, and Americans too, I suppose. Not maybe so much Australian, because their weather's pretty good as it is. But yeah, if you've come from a country that is cold, you know, has harsh winters, and it makes you feel horrible, you know, that was it seasonal affective disorder, or you've got arthritis, or, you know, just the warmer weather makes you feel better, doesn't it, you know, unless you've got hay fever and it gets a bit worse. I never had hay fever when I was younger. Don't worry folks, that's not gunfire, that's firecrackers, fireworks of some sort. Yeah, here in Si-Keo it is very quiet, even though it's on the border with Cambodia. And far enough from the border that it's not concerned. The skirmishing and the conflicts that's going on between Cambodia and Thailand is literally on the border, which is very mountainous, rural, you know, jungle area. It's not populated very much at all on either side of the border there. So I don't know why all this talk of hundreds of thousands of people being displaced is an absolute lie. It's misinformation. It's probably nowhere near tens of thousands. It's probably not even, 5,000. Yeah, these rural areas are not heavily populated, and the parts that are populated, I should imagine the people that are living there are literally happen to be dragged out of there because they won't want to leave. Even though what's going on is scary stuff, I'm pretty sure most, unless they've got small children and such like the elderly, you'll have to drag out of those places. This conflict won't be sufficient, I don't think, to worry them too much to even be in that much fear. But that's just my opinion. What do I know? I haven't been to the border to find out. I've been advised to stay away from the border, and as I would be doing it mostly for the views, it's probably not a good idea, because I put myself in potential harm's way just to make a video to then get the increased views. I mean, I know other YouTubers that their channels have had quite low views, and then they've just filmed one thing, or an event or some action somewhere, and that one video has had millions of views, and therefore their channel has taken off, and now they get hundreds of views for lots of other videos that they now make. I'm not a news reporter. I know nothing about journalism. I'm a people's person, but that's all fine and dandy when there's no translation, there's no communication issues. Trying to be the people's person, in a country where there's a language issue, it's not easy. And I want to have a successful channel. I want to have people, watch my videos, watch my content. But I'm not going to play up to the camera. I'm not going to pretend to be something that I'm not. You'll only get the real me. As much as I don't seek fame. I seek the fortune to some extent. Because obviously I need money to live, the same as anybody else. Well, say the fortune, no, I don't. The fortune is obviously a way of saying lots of money. I don't seek a fortune. I just, seek a comfortable life. I don't subscribe to the trap into life. Like staying in, expensive hotels or having expensive cars or jewelry or any of that kind of thing. I know I learned at a youngest age, in my 20s, that jewelry and nice cars and lots of money don't bring happiness. Happiness comes from within. So if you truly want to be happy, it has to start with yourself, not with stuff, the material items. That sort of stuff doesn't bring you, it will bring you short-time happiness, short-term, happiness, and then, that novelty will wear off, and it's just the same as any other car or any other piece of jewellery at that point then. So yeah, I don't seek fortune or fame. I just would like my channel to obviously be to the point where it's giving me an income, which is obviously the hurdle. Obviously everybody that's on YouTube is to some extent doing it because of that reason. There is going to be channels out there that aren't in it to make money, and then it's just to spread the word, so it's more of an advertising. I haven't got anything to sell you, so there is no advertising with my channel. There is no ulterior motive. It's There's no merchandise or anything like that. And I know that these types of video that I make aren't in the realms. Let me just go in the shade now that the sun's starting to come out. Yeah, I know that, you know, that there's ways and means of getting clickbait and all that. But clickbait, you know, using clickbait titles, thumbnails, things like that, really infuriate me, especially when the clickbait is sensational, you know, and not true to what the content is about. Yeah, it annoys me, but obviously that's what gets the viewers. What's that? Retired working for you. He did a title, and he's done it a couple of times actually. I've had enough, and you know, and I'm getting out of Thailand, and all this sort of talk, and people are going, oh shit, what's happened? But obviously, people want to find out what the story is as to why he's closing down his channel and he's not going to do anymore, and he's fed up, and it's just an introduction, and then, you know, had you all fooled, I'm not really, love this place, and you know, and I know that's what the algorithm wants, and that's what I need to do to be successful, and call it laziness or being too much of a technophobe. Really, it comes down to learning new skills. Since my mini stroke is really difficult, short-term memory is shot to pieces, so trying to retain information, you know, for learning is really hard for me. It was hard enough when I was young, before any physical issues. But now as I'm older, you know, obviously, as we all do, you know, we reach that middle-age point in life, and it's kind of can be downhill from there. I know some people, you know, make these fitness videos and well-being videos, and they're in their 70s and 80s and they're still running around doing this, that and the other. You know, running marathons and doing all kinds of fitness and yoga and Tai Chi and keeping active. I've become a lot more immobile. Is that the right word? Yeah, I've done a lot less walking since I've been in Asia than I have when I was back home. Partly because I don't have a dog to walk anymore, so that you know, that routine of getting up, walking the dog, and then, you know, several walks throughout the day, that's kind of out of the window now in that sense. So I haven't got to exercise, you know, through intention of, you know, caring and looking after an animal and doing the right thing. So the motivation dropped off massively. So I've physically not been as active, which has been a bad thing. I had my game plan, which I advise everyone to have some sort of game plan when they come out to Thailand, or basically just make a move from wherever it is that they you know, are used to living. If you don't have any sort of plan, then, you know, what is it they say? Failing to plan is planning to fail, or something like that, I think the expression goes. And I had a plan, plan, a dream, whatever you want to call it, when I came out. I had, you know, issues that I needed resolving. Have those issues been resolved to my satisfaction and how I dreamt of them being resolved? No, not at all. I definitely had my rose-tinted glasses on when I came out to Thailand. 100%. And I think that's what a lot of these YouTubers do. They make their content, not all, but a lot of content, especially the successful ones, they seem to have a very polarized way of seeing Thailand. And even when they try and not have that polarization in their content, they still somehow, somewhere along the lines, will flip it as to make Thailand seem like this utopia, this place where you know, everything's better. You know, even like things like you know, very relaxed safety rules. You know, like having a building, a new construction site, and they're using bamboo scaffolding rather than actual, you know, manufactured for the job scaffolding. It's, you know, traditionally what they've always used, so that they're not going to stop using it just because of health and safety. Maybe in another 100 years they might give up on using it, where they've become westernized completely. But the draws of such places, you know, knowing that you can have a house built in next to no time because you haven't got to tick all the boxes for, you know, having surveys done and building regulations or codes, as I think they're called in America. You know, you can pretty much, it feels like you can do anything, you know, which is why a lot of people then want to come and invest their money into living in places like here, into Southeast Asia and Thailand and Cambodia and Vietnam. I think, you know, this happens a lot because the ease of doing business and you know, the cheaper costs of doing things, people get suckered into thinking, right, well, say for example a hotel, yeah, so you bought some land, built you know, say a 20-room hotel or guest house or whatever you want to call it, a resort. Most places around the world, that doing such a, you know, a large project would probably cost millions, you know. And yes, it would cost millions of baht also, but millions of baht is what, about $20,000, something like that, about £15,000, £16,000. So a million baht, it isn't really that much money, you know. So if you were quoted of having, say, a resort built, it's going to cost you, you know, say 2 million baht to build like 20 rooms. You know, basic rooms, and that's without furnishing them, say. But to, you know, get the skeleton of you know, first fixing or second fixing or third fixing. So yeah, you know, literally just got to furnish the place and you can open doors. The attraction is, obviously, you're gonna have an up and running business for next to no money, comparative to where you know, you come from, being a Westerner or something, you know. So the attraction is going to be there. You know, rent a business, you know, rent a unit somewhere for 5,000 baht a month, 10,000 baht a month. and open a restaurant. That happens so much. It seems to be one of the biggest wants from a lot of these Thai ladies, you know. I want to open a restaurant. So then you haven't necessarily got to buy the land or build anything, because there's, you know, empty places all over. And that should tell you something. When you seriously take a long, hard look around Thailand as a whole, not just these touristy places like Pattaya and Phuket and, you know, Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai. There's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of empty buildings and businesses, lots. And yes, they might not be in great areas, you know, the passing trade might be pretty low, or you know, traffic's got rerouted to use a different route or something like that, which, you know, killed off an area. You know, that sort of thing happens. But there's a saturation of businesses in Thailand, empty buildings. There are so many empty, unused buildings in just about every single province that I've been to. Laos doesn't have the same overdevelopment, so a lot of the buildings in Laos are being used. There's still a fair proportion that are empty places, but nowhere near on the same scale as Thailand. And I think it's because it is so cheap. You know, you can buy or rent a little slither of land somewhere, open a restaurant. After, say, a year or two, you realise that it's not going to work, but because it's cost you next to nothing, you just basically close the doors and walk away and do something different, you know, find a job or go work for someone else, or, you know, open up somewhere else. So you get this, you know, this way that one person may succeed, you know. So, for example, you know, someone in your local village may open a restaurant, you know, spend a lot of money. Maybe they had, you know, a sponsor, shall we say. Someone in the family managed to find themselves a rich Westerner to imagine and dream the same dream of opening a restaurant. And because the family's already got the land already, then they, right, well, we've already got the land, we ain't got to pay money for that, so that's a cost saving there. Just build the restaurant. And because it's all new, you know, and it's, people want to support each other, things seem like they're going to do really well at the start, because, you know, you're getting lots of visitors, and then after 6 months to a year, the business just drops off completely. People stop coming. Well, chances are it's because someone else somewhere nearby, someone has seen that success and has tried to copy it, basically. They've seen a place open and they've seen customers, you know, when you first opened, and they've got the same idea. Well, if they can do it, I can do it too. You see this all over. It happens all the time. Even when it comes to silly like roadside sellers, you have them all over Thailand. You know, you'll have some selling pumpkins, some selling durian, some selling oranges, but they all seem to clump together, you know. You have like 3 or 4 durian sellers all in a row. Like, really? Why don't you you know, space yourself out a little bit, you know, be a couple of miles apart? Because when you clump them together, it's like, well, you're all the same at this point, so it makes no real difference. I know it's probably regional, that's where the farms are, so they got a certain area that they come to sell, but yeah, it does seem like the competitive side of things is a good thing and a bad thing. You know, competition's always good to drive down prices for the consumer. But obviously when you say you got a hotel and you're the only one in the area, so you get all the business, but then one of your neighbours then does the same or similar, and your business is then dropped off by half, you know. You get despondent, you feel deflated because your business has gone from being successful to not so successful. So the effort drops off, your customer service drops off, the maintenance drops off. That's the thing that infuriates me. So a hotel opens, or a guest house or a resort, and you can tell once upon a time when it was new, it was very beautiful and very, you know, very much loved. But as the years tick by, maybe the owners don't run it anymore, they have management in or something, or family member looking after the business, you know, fall to pieces and they don't get replaced, they don't get fixed, they don't get maintenance, you know. Broken tiles stay broken, you know, dirty walls stay dirty, you know. Replacing broken furniture is broken. Yeah, they don't seem to care too much about keeping on top of things, you know, keeping things looking good. And, you know, when it comes down to painting walls or, you know, replacing tiles or, you know, broken taps and that serviceable side of things, it's no wonder them businesses just, you know, teeter away to nothingness. You know, because why would you expect customers keep coming back and staying loyal? You know, their loyalty from saying coming maybe once a month to your restaurant for the first year ends up by year 2 or 3 going to maybe once every 6 months, and then maybe drops off to never coming again. Because what's happened in that year, no one's bothered keeping on top of things. No one's bothered to replace broken or damaged products, you know, tables, chairs, whatever. No one's bothered to clean or wash down or repaint walls. So other places open up and theirs are brand spanking new, you know, so everything's fresh, everything's clean, there's no damage, everything works, everything's functional. And your restaurant, because you haven't maintained, or hotel, you know, maintained, say the plumbing isn't, you know, working, and your toilet is busted, so you're having to use a bucket, you know, to wash the toilet through rather than pressing the button on the tank. Just, you know, silly things that seem irrelevant and petty and not important to the Asian guests, I think is a big mistake, because I think that's what a lot of Westerners find themselves in that trap. They'll say open a hotel, and they'll do it to their way of thinking, their standards. So they'll you know, put a lot of effort into making it look boutique and comfortable beds and things like that. So everything's tip top. Everything is, you know, how it should be, how it would be expected from a new opening, you know, a new hotel. Only to find after you know, a couple of years that the owners had to return back to their home country, maybe taking their wife or partner with them, and having either family members or management look after the place. and it just takes a massive dive. Obviously, these super expensive, places that have got millionaire or billionaire owners. Yeah, maybe not so much because they'll have a proper maintenance team around them. But I think the average Joes, and there is a lot of average Joes that come out with deep pockets of pension money and savings, and they plow so much. Like I say, I'm not a business expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I think I have a good common sense, and I believe, work smarter, not harder. And I think a lot of people that come out here, they plough their money into businesses without doing the proper research. Things that in the West work fine to do research for opening, say, a restaurant, but you struggle to make the same decision making off the same sort of information. The easiest description really is in the West, for say opening a restaurant, you'd want a decent amount of what we call footfall, people walking past. If you're in an area that's got a high footfall, a lot of people walking around, then there's a good chance your restaurant will have a lot of customers because there's people around. Footfall in Asia doesn't really technically fall under the same kind of way of doing things, living basically. They use motorbikes so much to get around, and it's not technically out of laziness. It's just, I think, out of culture. Stay out of the sun. So why walk in the sun when you can get somewhere a lot quicker and spend less time in the sun? So the footfall, people just don't walk around. Shopping centres, that's why obviously shopping centres, shopping malls are the places really to be. I think any other sort of restaurant or shop or anything, if it's not inside a shopping mall, you have to. I think your chances of success come down quite a lot. And that's not to say that it's guaranteed success. Say opening up a shop inside a shopping mall, it's still obviously dependent on lots of other things like your price and customer service and competition and all that kind of stuff. But at least if you're going to get any sort of footfall, then being in a shopping centre, a shopping mall, is a better choice because you're guaranteed at least some footfall. I think that's why a lot of people like to open their businesses near hospitals and schools and things like that, because the guaranteed footfall. Obviously, a school not all year round. A hospital, on the other hand, is a very good place to open a shop or a restaurant because you're guaranteed footfall every day of the year, aren't you? Maybe not lots of footfall, but you're guaranteed footfall every day. Or a bus station or train station or somewhere like that. But you see so many towns and cities with these empty buildings. So be cautionary when you're thinking of opening a business here in Thailand. I don't want to be the doom and gloom, but like I started this video, you can't come to Southeast Asia with your rose tinted glasses on and thinking everything is just going to be fine and dandy. Yeah, that is, a part of me that's obviously a little bit deflated with the fact that my own plans fell flat on their face. I haven't done the things that I planned to do. Opening a business in Thailand is fraught with a lot of risks. A lot of risks. And I'm not a gambling man. I really don't like to gamble. And I think that's what happens a lot here. I think guys get to the midway point of life. Well, I know there's obviously a lot of youngsters that are earning good money now, these digital nomads. And they're making their content about how great Thailand is and how wonderful the people are. And, these things are true. I think statistically, on average, the crime rate and things like that is a lot lower. But there's a lot of things information that you won't be able to get. They don't have an office for national statistics, and if they do, which I don't think they do because I've checked, how detailed and how good of records are they? I dare say that the figures in a lot of situations are massaged and not correct, or just unknown. So so the record keeping just isn't. There isn't any such records kept. So it makes it difficult, therefore, to know exactly what the statistics are about anything. What you need is the research and the information to kind of give you some indication as to whether or not you'll be successful in business in Thailand. A lot of that information just won't be available, which is what I'm saying. You have to do your own research. You have to, go out there and actually, if you're saying wanting to open a shop or a restaurant, and you've found a location that you think is going to be a good location, well, go sit outside that location and count how many people are going to go past. I think that my biggest tip for just about any business, be it retail or service industry, restaurant or parking, that's key. I've noticed that in studying coffee shops, because that was my intention, to try and open a very small, only like 3 or 4 table, very small little, what they call it, boutique, if you like. I don't know if it's the right word, but just a little hole in the wall. I think that's how people describe them. There's a small little hole in the wall coffee shop, just a counter with 3 or 4 tables, nothing big, nothing grand, something that was easy to manage. But the places that I noticed where I kind of suss out the competition, as it were, so the nearest other coffee shops, a lot of them didn't have the footfall, they didn't have the pass and trade, or if they did, they didn't have parking, or if they were like I was explaining, like a hole in the wall or just an open planned kind of coffee shop. Again, so no air conditioning or anything like that, because it's kind of all outside, so there's no point. Those sorts of places don't have very good traffic, because yes, they might have the Wi-Fi, But if you're not being kept cool at the same time, you know, your visit might be cut short because you're feeling a bit sweaty and hot and not so comfortable. Whereas you could walk or go to a coffee shop just, literally just up the road, still have Wi-Fi, still have drinks available and bathroom available, but just with the added benefit of having air conditioning and an enclosed area. Those sorts of coffee shops always seem to do well. And I'm not saying that, other coffee shops that are, say, more, not so expensive, selling the same product, you think, oh, it's fine. Why am I going to say, just example, spend, say, or Coffee Amazon, I know they're obviously a big chain or a big franchise, but, their model is successful because of, firstly, their location. They have a guaranteed footfall from the people. I'm talking about the ones at the petrol stations, the gas stations, Obviously there is other coffee shops that aren't attached to petrol stations, but that they are always in places that are high footfall. They have people visiting the petrol station, gas station, or, walking the street. They're never in the middle of nowhere, are they? Well, because there's no footfall. And when they're not in, say, a petrol station, a gas station, so there's, just saying in a high street, they'll be in a high street where there'll be, say, like a shopping mall. It might not be inside the shopping mall, but they'll be on the same street, or the entrance nearby the shopping mall. So they still get the footfall. But then there could be competition nearby selling just equally as nice a coffee for half the price. So you can get what you want, say, a latte, yeah? With the place that offers air conditioning inside, we can almost guarantee we'll be busier to a competitor a few buildings down that are selling the same drink at half the price without the customers. Because customers want the benefit of being able to sit in a cool area. So things like air conditioning can really push up the price of building in restaurants or hotel rooms. Excuse me, folks. I think it is a cold. I don't think it's hay fever. I wouldn't be coughing so much if it was just hay fever. So yeah, Merry Christmas. I know this hasn't been a particularly informative video. Just me kind of just putting it out there to you all. Those people that do watch my content, thank you foremost. Maybe hit the follow button or the like button. Yeah, that'll make my day actually if you hit the like button. Just want you all to know that it's not all a bed of roses. Yeah. When you come out to Thailand and you think that everything's just going to be a wonderland, everything's going to be hunky-dory, trust me, don't ever let your guard down completely. I think that's what a lot of guys have done in the past and are still probably doing. They come out to Southeast Asia, they fall in love, they let the guard down, they start dreaming of the good life, shall we say. I think, well, I can have the good life already here, right now, in Thailand, for a fraction of the cost of having a good life back home, say in America or UK. you know. Maybe say they got some inheritance or sold a business. So they're sitting on a, you know, quite a hefty little stash of money. And they think, right, well, that stash of money, that pension or that, you know, that property that I just sold is giving me, just for example, say £100,000, say $150,000. Think, right, well, I'm going to go out to Southeast Asia and, you know, relax and enjoy life for a bit and then decide what to do. They come out and very quickly find themselves in love, which is, you know, a wonderful thing, you know, to fall in love. There's no better feeling in the world, is there? So naturally their guard has come down. They've got money in the bank burning a hole in the pocket. And they weigh up the pros and the cons of, you know, that money being spent, invested in their home country as opposed to, say, in Thailand. And it's a no-brainer, isn't it? I fell into the same trap myself. You know, you think, right, well, this partner has now got land in the family already, so there's a cost I haven't got to pay straight away. Instantly, that's a saving. So the next thing it would be, well, I've saved money on having not to buy land. My girlfriend or wife's got land in that already. Let's utilise that. Save money. Despite the fact that the land will probably need raising, you know, more than likely, and other money spent on it, it still will seem a cheaper alternative to, you know, having to buy land or property with the land in your home country. So I think, well, building a restaurant or a little resort, that ain't going to cost a great deal, is it? You know, materials are cheaper. So I'm just watching to see if it's still recording, folks. How are we all? Yeah. You know, you think, oh, the building costs to build a restaurant, a resort, whatever, fractionals compared with back home. So you think, oh, great, you know. The building costs and the savings on not having to purchase land. You know, have an up and running business, say in a year's time, for half, if not less than a quarter, say, of what the same thing would have cost you back home. Probably a quarter, to be fair, or 1/5. So you know, you feel all happy and proud. You got this brand new resort or hotel or, you know, restaurant. It's cost you a fraction of what it would cost you back home, and you're dead chuffed that you've accomplished this new business that at first, at least, will probably have support from the local community and friends and family to you know, make it, you know, to at least appear to be successful. Most of it will be out of curiosity and nosiness. And if you haven't got anything there Instagrammable, right, for the people, the youngsters to take their selfies, then you can guarantee the trade will drop off very, very, very quickly, and you'll end up having a, you know, a restaurant or coffee shop with basically no customers. Grab food and online out here isn't as pigeonholed as, say, in the West. By large, a lot of the time when we order food online, it is food, yeah. And they might sell like bottles of drink also that you can place at the same time as making your order. But most of the time, you say you're ordering at McDonald's or KFC or Pizza Hut or something like that,
you're ordering the food, you'll probably already have the drink at home. The point I'm getting to is there's a big industry out here for um, takeaway drinks, so that the grab food and line delivery and whatever other, you know, food delivery um, app that you can use. Out here, a lot of people will just order drinks. So if your business doesn't have that facility, you're cutting off you know, what could potentially be a massive source of income. I know there's other costs involved, but yeah, I've known a hole in the wall, not even restaurants, just people making food, literally out of not even a 5 metre square area, just with their pots and pans, and their phone goes off, giving them notifications of people ordering food. And it's literally nothing more than just someone with a stove and a fridge and some pots and pans, and they've made a takeaway restaurant. You know, no place to sit and eat the food. It is literally just order online, and the driver will come, collect, and take away. And I've seen that in resorts. The resorts like have restaurants, but no residents stay in. But the restaurant stays busy because they do grab food or line food or something like that. So you can be successful even if you are out of the way and you don't have great footfall, if you then use these, you know, other services, other apps and things like that to bring in the customers. You know, people sat in an office, maybe not going to take a break, but want a little snack or fancy a nice smoothie of some sort. You know, they'll just get their phone out and get it delivered. Is it laziness or convenience? I think it's probably a little bit of both. Yeah. And like I was saying before, footfall, you can't see footfall in Asia as the same, unless it's obviously in a heavily populated touristy area. You can't think of footfall in the same way in these towns and non-touristy cities. You know, they have town centres and city centres, but people aren't walking around them. You know, I'm used to, you know, market towns and places like that in the UK. A market town, you'll have a market area. There's no motorbikes or cars or anything. There's pedestrian only areas, and that's where the shoppers are. That's where the footfall is. You can't help be successful when you've got the footfall, because people are seeing the business. When people are whizzing past on motorbikes and not walking past, it's very difficult to get the footfall because they're not technically on foot. So that just being on a busy road, you know, where there's lots of traffic, does not guarantee success. In the West, I think that probably would, to some extent, increase your chances of success. I think in Southeast Asia, I don't think it makes any real difference, unless you have, like I mentioned before, off-street parking. I think that's crucial to any business, is parking. If you don't have any parking, then the amount of customers that you'll be able to service will be very, very, very small. Which, if you've got a small establishment, like I was thinking of, you know, just 3 or 4 tables, so no more than, say, 12 people at a time maximum, you know, and that'll be when you're full, so that wouldn't be very often, you know. Parking isn't then such an issue. But if you've opened a restaurant with, say, 10, 15, 20 tables, so you could, say, have a seating area of, say, 40, 50 people, you're never ever going to see that place full, because you haven't got the parking to facilitate that many people stopping and coming inside. If people can't find a parking space nearby, they ain't coming in, put it that way. Thai people do not like to walk anywhere. And when it's not normal, because the norm is jump on a motorbike and get there quicker, stay out of the sun, get out of the sun quicker. Walking, it takes time, it takes longer time than going on a motorbike, therefore you're in the sun longer, and that's not the done thing. Walking between A and B is not a concept really in Thailand, unless it's in a shopping centre in the cool. Then yeah, there might be a lot of walking involved, but other than that, finding yourself a girl who likes to go hiking, they're as rare as hen's teeth, I think, in Thailand. Well, probably in Southeast Asia, full stop, to be fair. It's not a pastime that Thai people, or probably a large proportion of Asian people, are really into. Being hot and sweaty and potentially dirty isn't really their idea of fun, from what I can gather. Staying cool, out with the sun, and clean, I think, is preferred. Obviously, with the kids, it's different altogether. And kids like getting dirty and running around and exploring, but yeah, I think when they become adults, become a little bit too conservative with it all. Too conservative, or maybe too aware, maybe. When you're young, dumb, you don't think of the safety aspect, do you? Going for a walk through a little, like, jungled area. You're fearless, aren't you, as a kid? When you get older and realise the dangers of things, that you become anxious and nervous about certain things, and you treat things in a different way. So there's lots and lots and lots and lots of differences. You hear that expression, same but different. And then there is no same but different. It is just different. The same, yeah, okay, a restaurant is a restaurant. If you sell food to customers, yeah, technically you're a restaurant. The difference, footfall, marketing, popularity, and obviously a country that is, literally a country of foodies. You have to make sure that you're on top of your game. You can't be expecting great success if your pak or pao is the same as everybody else's pak or pao, or your seats and cutlery and all the rest of it is just average, same everywhere else. That's easily replicated 100,000 places. If you stand out. This is what I was saying about the Instagram side of things. Any hotel, restaurant, resort, if it's Instagrammable, if it's photographic, it will be successful. Obviously price accordingly, because obviously these super expensive places, then they're not going to be so busy. But if you're reasonably priced and you have, Instagrammable selfie stuff, great views, and or just some artistic stuff, you see these big wall art with wings and things like that, people can stand in front of, that sort of thing, or the love seats, the seats in heart shapes. Just a photographic setting or gardens, you know, nice gardens. That's why all these coffee Amazon all have the same foot plan. You know, the planting might not be in exactly in the same area, but they all have shaded tree. You know, they have trees brought in and ponds and lots of flowers and things like that, because it's Instagrammable, it's photographic. People aren't just coming in for a coffee; they're coming in to have a coffee or some drink or something to eat, and also then be kept cool, and also to have a nice memory or nice photos of where you were. And believe it or not, I think it is seen as a bit of a more of a high society that can go and have a, you know, a coffee, a coffee Amazon. It's not a place where your average Joe Thai person would choose to go and purchase a drink. It's probably one of the last places they would even imagine to go grab a coffee from. Purely on the aspect that the coffee is almost the same wherever you buy it from, give or take, you know. It's why spend double or 3 times the cost for the name, but it's more than the name. So it's good Wi-Fi, air conditioning, lovely surroundings, you know. If you can replicate that and you've got the footfall, then I think you'd do okay. But you'd have to, like I was saying at the beginning, keep on top of things. That seems to be the biggest thing that I see a lot. You walk into a hotel or a restaurant and you think, this place is new, you know. Or you look on the reviews, and the first review is like only a year old. So you think, all right, they've only had 1 review, you know, in a year. So clearly they've only been open, say, a year. Or maybe they've got 10 reviews, but the oldest one is a year old, you know. So you think, oh, well, they've only been open for 12 months. But then things seem to just start slowly dipping down. And it's because, you know, all the effort and excitement has worn off. You're a year into it, so it's become like a 9 till 5. That's if you're even hands-on, which are a lot of foreigners, because of the fact that they're not allowed to work in so many industries. So, for example, opening a coffee shop, they wouldn't be able to make you the coffee or even take the money for selling you the coffee. They'd have to employ someone to do that, or have a family member do it, you know. So you can't do that on the cheap, you know. You could have dreams of opening an English style restaurant and think, oh, I can cook English food, I can do a Sunday roast, I can do a full English breakfast, no problem. When it comes to actually then being the one doing it, and you find out that if you try and you do and you get caught because you're not able to work in that industry, and you find yourself in a whole lot of problems because you've broken the law, you know, you've probably, you know, say, like, opened a small restaurant and you're working in the kitchen, immigration have found out that you're cooking the food, and they've paid a visit, and now you're being barred from, you know, being in the country. You're being deported because you've broken the immigration rules. And there'll obviously be lots and lots of guys that will try the same sort of thing, opening bars or cannabis shops and things like that. So there's an added cost. Of course, you may have factored that into the business plan, you know, that you're going to have a waitress to take the orders and to take the money, and you're going to have a cook or a chef or something, because you won't get a work visa to do that yourself, I don't think. Although I have seen videos of foreigners working as chefs, so that's obviously a bit of a grey area there. I don't know exactly how that works, but I do know for a fact that you're not allowed to be like say front of house, you know, the person on the till, you know, point of sale, taking the money. I think that has to be a Thai person. So, you know, there's those added costs, and then obviously the added risks as well, because then you're putting all your trust in the cash handling person doing the right thing and not screwing you over and not fiddling the books. And when it's, you know, especially when it's kept in within the family, here's so many horror stories. Guys opening shops, restaurants, or whatever, you know, and it seems like their shop or their pub or whatever, their bar, is doing really well. You know, they're a month into it, and the shelves are getting empty, and the fridge is empty. They need to restock, and they'll go to their partner, their wife, and say, "Look, we need to stock up the shelves. We're running low. Let's pop to the shops to, you know, replenish the products so we can sell more." And then ask for the money from the sales of all the stuff that they've sold so far, and be told, well, there is no money, there's nothing. Well, how is it that we've sold all this product, all these beers, all this alcohol, all these, you know, whatever it is that your shop sells, to have no money? Oh, well, I had to pay someone to do this, I had to, mum needed money for that medical treatment, or this car payment was due, or oh, some uncle needed some money to, you know, pay a bloody fine or something, otherwise he's going to prison, or some excuse will be, and it'll be what? How is it? So we've sold all this product, we've had all these customers, and we're now at the point of having to restock to carry on, but we have no money because you've spent it on other things. That then becomes a charity, and I've seen it, I've heard the stories, guys basically just pulling the shutters down, putting a padlock on the shop or restaurant, and just throwing the keys away. So that's it, nah, done, finished. That's not how you run businesses. The business has to pay for itself. They don't, the Thai ladies, unfortunately, they don't see it that way. They don't see it that if they've got a cash cow, if they've got an ATM Farang supporting them, because they're all pumped up with the same dreams and ambitions and cost savings, so they plough all their money into opening up, say, a shop, say, spending like 2 million baht on filling it up so it looks like, say, a 7-Eleven. So you have all your fridges and your freezers and your fancy tills and all that. Spend an absolute fortune on trying to emulate like a 7-Eleven. To do well, seem to have lots of sales, but then still not to have any money. Yeah. I think, unfortunately, a lot of Thai people have the dreams and aspirations to become business people, to be business owners, but have no business savvy at all. You know, doing a business plan, probably a very strange concept, you know. Analysing your incomings and outgoings is probably a bit of a rare, you know, point of seeing things. And obviously you have then the generosity, don't you? Say you open a restaurant and then, you know, each day you have 4, 5, 6, 7 family members all turn up, supposedly making it look like you're being supported, because passers-by don't have to know, won't realise that they're family members, especially as they're passing by. They might obviously realise when they get to know you or start talking to you, and we have the customers. But you know, so you got family members hanging about that are eating and drinking, and you guarantee it will all be for free. So then your profits are just going down, 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 down. Making a success of business, the traditional ways, you know, like I say, hotels, restaurants, resorts. It's not the way to do business now here in Thailand. I would strongly advise against it. I really would. The market is saturated everywhere you look. Empty buildings, empty hotels, empty resorts, empty shops. Thailand is flooded with them, which is good, obviously, in the respect that there's lots of opportunity, lots of choice. Obviously, all the prime places will be taken, obviously, because that's what happens. And if they're not taken, the price will be, you know, vastly increased. Online is the way. Online, working from home, having a business that doesn't involve customers having to come to you. You know, selling a product or a service online is a lot better than sinking a lot of money into building up a business. But that's my piece of advice for any guys or gals coming out to Thailand and wanting to, or thinking about pulling the trigger on settling in Thailand. You'll very likely never be given citizenship. I think they give out 3 or 4 a year, something like that. I think some years not even that. So getting citizenship, I'd say, is a dream for 99.9% of the people that even think about making Thailand their home. For those that do, I think generally speaking, they're very clever people, so they can learn the language, not only to speak it, but to write. Because you have to fill that criteria, you have to be able to read and write in Thai. No doubt have so much money in the bank, and probably have other business interests and things like that. If you think you can retire to Thailand at 50, because retirement visa starts at 50, so say you took early retirement, say 55, and think that's fine. Take early retirement at 55, go live happily ever after in Thailand. You watch how quickly that retirement money gets eaten up. And if you're not savvy, you haven't looked after your finances, you've fallen into the trap of falling in love and opening businesses. So your little nest egg, your little stash of pension, your lump sum, it's just about enough, or it is enough to open a restaurant or a bar. Yeah, that'll be mine, lock, stock and barrel, my pension. You know, say you got, I don't know, just throwing numbers out there, say $50,000, yeah, lump sum. Well, you could open a restaurant, you could open a bar, or maybe even a small resort, you know. So you pump all your, if you like, your life savings into it. Yeah, you might have some pension coming in each month, so like, yeah, that's fine. You know, I can live off that. I won't have to pay any rent because now I've built myself a little resort, say, you know. So I have, you know, 4 or 5 little cabins or whatever, you know, on your wife's land, and you think you're set for life. And you realise that you're not, because each and every single year you've had to jump through the same hoops. You've had to lock away money in the bank just to be eligible for the visa application to to still comply with the marriage visa or the retirement visa, having, was it 500,000 baht just sitting in your bank, you know? And you have to prove that that money is still there each year. I know there's ways around it, and there's agents that will lend you the money and all that dodgy goings on, that workarounds. But it's a cost that you will have to pay. Be it that you pay an agent to do it, so you'll be paying more, or you just do it yourself, you know. You just don't get accepted into Thai culture, the Thai living. You can't, I don't think you can emigrate here and live happily ever after, ever. Unless, like I say, you're one of the lucky ones that gets, you know, citizenship. But for literally the handful of people, excuse me, that actually get citizenship, it's like I said, it's rare as hen's teeth. They just don't exist. You don't hear of them because, oh wow, hopefully that bird will fly down here again. I've never seen a bird with blue wings, black and blue. Oh, where's it gone? Oh, it's still there. Just turn the camera around in case it does swoop down again. Oh no, it's flying off. You see it? I've never seen such a beautiful bird before. It looks like a crow or a raven or something like that, but just with a large band of blue on its black, otherwise black wings and body. Very colourful, very beautiful. I've never seen before. So exciting. I'm not one of these, what do they call it, twitchers? Is that what they're called? Go around keeping a record of all the birds that I've seen. So yeah, I know it's not a very uplifting video, so it'll probably get virtually no views, and it is just all my opinion. And then there's other YouTubers out there like Thai Talk with Dan and many other YouTubers that give stories about life in Thailand and the pitfalls and the, you know, that seems to generally always be centered around relationships. That's why it's a very peculiar culture for me to kind of wrap my head around. It's like I've mentioned in other videos before. Seems to be the same set questions that, you know, people that you're coming into contact with, like strangers, you know, people passing by, just, you know, quick, fleeting conversations with people. It's always, you know, the same obvious question, and I suppose it'd be the same if the roles were reversed. You know, if you met a Thai person in England, you know, you'd probably ask them where they're from because they're clearly not English. So I know that, you know, it's, where are you from? How long have you been here? How old are you? And have you got a partner? Like I say, there probably are standard questions to some extent, you know, as icebreakers, you know. But they also, quite often, or how is it that, you know, do you have a business? You know, where does your money come from? I'm sorry, that's personal information, and that's not up for discussion, you know. I know a lot of people say, well, it's just, you know, people being interested out of intrigue. Well, another piece of advice, don't give away too much information about your circumstances, your financial situation. Not even with people in person, you know, like people will ask, you know, where does your money come from? Are you retired, or this, that and the other? And maybe you've got investments. Don't tell them jack shit. say, say nothing. Keep people in the dark, especially when it comes to the love interests, because they will be wanting to know if they're wasting their time with a pauper or not. See, I know I'm a pauper. That's why my effort in even entertaining the idea of any sort of relationship here in Thailand is off the table. The ladies here are so ingrained into them. No money, no honey, that old expression. It's true to some extent. Now the honey, might be great, but the money might not be so great. You might get the honey until the money runs out. And then what do? You're back to square one. So many guys do that. So many guys do that. And like I say, there's other channels warning of these same things, so I know I'm going over old ground with this. But I've had so many Thai people, when I was more open about my reasons for being here, and basically telling people my life story, they all came back with the same kind of answer. It might have been slightly differently worded, but the answer would always be the same kind of warning. Be very, very careful, because they know that there's virtually no industry that you can work in or start that won't involve having a partner. In fact, I think to do business in Thailand, you have to have business partners, Thai business partners. So therefore, there's always going to be that element of gambling, that element of risk, because it's set up that you have to have a partner. So obviously it's then a common theme, I suppose, that all these foreigners that have done business are therefore have business partners, be it their wife or a family member, has then screwed them over. And that's why I was getting so many warnings from people when I've spoken about my intentions. They know instantly that to open a coffee shop, I'm going to need employees, because I won't be able to do the work myself, and also to not break the law, to have a business, to do things officially, properly, registered and all that. We'd have to have a business partner as well. So then there's the gamble of what happens when you put all your trust and probably a large portion of your life savings into somebody else's hands. Well, they haven't had to work for that money, so you can pretty much guess how that will work out for you. When that business partner hasn't got anything to lose, they put no money into anything, it's shocking. It is really, really shocking how often it happens. And I see it all the time still now. Places that are getting built right now, resorts, hotels, getting built off the back of foreigners' investment. Maybe it's me, maybe I'm just too paranoid and afraid and anxious about that aspect of things. Like I say, not being a gambler. Maybe I should be a bit more like Del Boy, he who dares wins. Well, unfortunately, I don't dare to gamble. And unfortunately, I'm not in a financial position to be able to gamble, because a sensible gambler will only gamble what they can afford to lose. I'm not saying I'm living hand to mouth, but as I have lived hand to mouth for many, many, many years, I'm kind of used to it, and that's my norm. So I don't think even if I had, say, a lottery win, not that I gamble, so I don't do the lottery, but you know, a windfall of some sort, I don't think it would change my mentality. I still would be just as cautious and still as mindful. So let it be a cautionary tale. I've seen it time and time again. Retirees coming out with a nice stash of money, you know, or someone's taken early retirement, sold up their business, sitting on a large pot of money, does the maths and thinks, shit, I can do so much more out here for that same amount of money, you know. Like I said earlier, say £100,000, say, well, that ain't really going to do much for you back in the UK, especially if you haven't got the land to also then utilise, you know, and do something. If you then fallen in love, and then that family has land already there, sat there, just waiting for someone else to do something with. That's what that family will be thinking. Our knight in shining armour has come rushing to our rescue to pull the family out of poverty. And of course, it will, on paper, that's what it will look like, you know. Yeah, built a restaurant on their land, or a coffee shop, or small resort. You know, your 100,000 that wouldn't be able to do half of the things that you'd be able to do here with. You know, it's such a great cost saving. You know, you've had this beautiful coffee shop built and fitted out for less than 100,000, and it's all yours. Then you're thinking, well, being a foreigner, you can't own the land. So if you have any disputes with your then landowner, wife, family, yeah, you can imagine that will end up in a big pile of shite for you, because you've put all your faith in people that can, if they want to, because the law is all in their favour, screw you over. It's happened so many times. And those guys that then try and fight it, you know, end up then having, the only people then get rich from that situation is the lawyers. So, you know, on top of the money that you've invested or thought you were invested, to then find that it's all potentially all to be lost, to then have to pay even more money to fight to salvage something, quite often it breaks the bank, you know. I think a lot of guys come out here with, you know, that pot of money, and they sit down and think, right, I'll spend, say, half of it on building the dream home. So then they think, oh, I ain't got the cost of having to rent or you know, to live, you know, pay someone else, build my own on the wife's land. Yeah, maybe it goes well for a couple of years, 3, 4, 5 years, but then that's it. She's become used to that home. It's the novelty's worn off. It's nothing more than just bricks and mortar for her at that point. Yes, it still looks good on her that she's got the nicest house in the village, so she's looked upon as the success. But if nothing else is improved, if nothing else has been expanded upon, like building a house for mum and dad, or, you know, opening a restaurant just down the road, or doing something else, you can't. I don't think, if you dream of coming to Thailand, even as a, you know, as a pensioner, you know, someone in their 60s or 70s, to think that you're going to retire here, unless you're retiring with your spouse from your home country, So you know, your retirement is that we're just going to find somewhere that we can live comfortably, you know, keep the majority of your money in the bank as savings, and just, you know, have a comfortable life without having to invest or do any sort of business. Then yeah, I think Thailand is a great place to retire. Gets messy when you've so many men come out here wanting to retire, but they haven't, you know, haven't got a wife from their home country, so they're retiring as a bachelor maybe, or a divorcee, or as a widow. You know, so I feel more compassion for the widows, to be fair, because, you know, they've had long marriages and missing being married. They miss their partner so much, so they're lonely. So they're just crying out for some, you know, love and attention, and then they find that love and attention. And that love and attention comes with land in the family, and the light bulb goes off. Oh, that'll save me some money. I won't have to buy some land now. She's already got some. So, you know, the analytic side of your brain has started to fathom that I can do so much more with that money that I've retired with. Whereas your original plan, you might just be sit on the money. It's enough to last you, you know. You say 70 and you've got a nice pot of money and you're retired, and that money will last you until the day that you die. Maybe not living in, you know, a high society lifestyle maybe, but